good morning, good afternoon, good evening. No matter where you are, I'm happy to be here with you, and I'm definitely glad that you're here with me. Joining me on episode 2 of the Trust and Believe Nomad Cast, hosted by me, Damon Anderson. Hope you guys had a great Monday, very productive Monday, a Monday that brought value to not only you, but your family, your friends, your co-workers, or just your life in general. So I hope some of the words that we talked about yesterday, I hope they kind of helped um, allow that to put in your toolbox and move forward as we try to navigate, negotiate, and do whatever we need to do to be successful on those Mondays. You know, Monday is it's one of those days, but it can be defeated. Myself, I had a good Monday. Um, Everything was went according to plan. The wife and kids went off to work and school. Came home and went to Kroger and got some stuff ready for dinner and all that, and maintain the household and properly receive everybody when they come back from school and work. And just keep the thing going, trying to just bring value, like I said earlier, value to your life, yourself, your family, and whatever you're doing. You just want to be that person that adds value, daily value, monthly value, yearly value. Just continue to be valuable. So some of the things we're going to talk about in the next segment today is since we had Mental Combat Monday, today is Tuesday, 13th September. Tuesdays is talking about a Tuesday, and this week is almost like a reintroduction. Today actually be a reintroduction to the good folks that know me, and also an introduction to the folks that do not know me. And I talk about my life growing up in Detroit, transition to the Marine Corps, the Army, marriage, fatherhood, deployments, all this sort of stuff, subsequent retirement, and everything in between as much as I can. We talk about just a way to kind of reintroduce. And then also remember tomorrow is Way Back Wednesday. I have a unique story to tell about September 11th. I know it passed a couple of days ago, but that day will remain ingrained in our mind, spirit, and soul. So that'd be Way Back Wednesday. But today we'll concentrate on Tuesday again, talking about a Tuesday. Make sure we like, subscribe, follow Instagram, the YouTube channel, Facebook channel. As a gain followers, gain subscribers, just allowing people to kind of get into my world, and definitely appreciate that. Again, just looking forward to the interaction, looking forward to some of the comments and everything, and just want to just be a part of, the movement in a positive way. I definitely want to be positive because the negativity is, I'm too old to be negative. I had those days, some days are gone. That stuff makes you old, man. Let's try to stay young as possible, but with the wisdom of an older person. Everybody track and understand on that. So again, like, subscribe, follow. We'll go ahead and transition to talking on a Tuesday.
That's what I'm talking about.
All right, back again here, talking on a Tuesday, the Trust and Believe Nomad Cast, hosted by me, Damon Anderson. And as I stated earlier in the opening remarks, today is again talking about Tuesday, talking about my life growing up all the way to my retirement from the Army. So I guess we're just going to get started right now. Again, this is a reintroduction to the folks that know me. Of course, the family members already know this. And also, this is an introduction to the folks that do not know me. So I guess we'll just start from the beginning. Born and raised in Detroit, Michigan, on the west side of Detroit, Michigan in 1904. You know what I mean? I grew up in a full household, mother and father, grandmother, 6,977 cousins. Grew up in a big family. My neighborhood at the time, everybody in the neighborhood, mother or father, someone worked in the auto plants. Again, Detroit, Michigan, the Motor City. Majority of the folks worked in some type of services, whether it was the auto plants, food service, custodial, construction, some of those type of jobs, those real labor intensive jobs. You remember the union, the Teamsters, and all that. So I grew up in all that. I had a definitely a great upbringing. Like I said, I was house was always full with family members, and each family member I learned so much from, down to my father, my mother, my grandmother, my cousins, everybody, even the folks that was in my neighborhood, my next door neighbors across the street. I took something from everybody and kind of used that to kind of, solidify the person I am today. I still remember some of them old conversations and some of those key points of advice from people back in the day that I use even now. But growing up with all that, I always knew that I was an introvert. I always, even though, like I said, I had family members around me, I always knew I enjoyed kind of being in my own space, I guess, if you will, my own circle. And even to this day, I'm kind of like that, kind of in my own circle. And then, I've been married almost 24 years, but I still enjoy the time where I can kind of just get in my own zone, my own circle, if you will. But like I said, just growing up in Detroit, man, it was great. I grew up. I was there during the '80s. Everyone talk about the '80s, the crack epidemic, and around the corner from me, it was all the high rollers and the dealers and the pharmaceutical transactions and all that stuff. I mean, it was all over the place. It just wasn't Detroit. It was just the way it was back then. And I used to look towards those guys, for inspiration in terms of like fashion, because they was wearing, the Adidas top tens and Adidas forms and starter jackets and the big thick rope chains and all this stuff. And those were the guys that we looked to as like, man, these dudes got it. We knew that the uncles and the cousins and the fathers and all that worked in the auto plants, but we was like, man, these guys are really working hard, but these guys ain't doing nothing but standing on the corner doing these things, and they're making huge amounts of money. You got to get magnetized into that. But I was thankful that I was centered and I had good family around me to say, hey, all that stuff looks great, but all that glitter ain't gold. Again, that's one of the things I take away today. So I was around a lot of that. Um, One of my first jobs I had, I worked at a White Castle, and White Castle was is paramount in my family because that's usually everybody's and my family's first employment was White Castle. So I worked there for a couple years, and I remember it got to a point. I was like 18 years old, and I used to stand outside. I'd go clean the parking lot or download the truck or whatever. And I used to stare at the electrical workers, the construction workers, all these guys that came in, these guys and women that came into White Castle for breakfast. And I used to watch them like in awe, like, man, must really like what they was doing. Now, White Castle was great, but I don't think it was, at that time, it wasn't for me. I knew I wanted something more. And so on a whim, I went to a recruiting station, the Marine Corps recruiting station. The guy was like, yeah, we can do this, you can get that. And I asked him about war, and he's like, oh, we don't go to war because, how you going to fight a war and all we got is lasers? I think about that now. I was like, hold on, that didn't even make sense. But I was magnetized by the uniform and everything. And honestly, I don't think no one, closest friend, family members, or whoever, I don't think no one ever thought that I would join the Marine Corps. I even second guessed that decision myself. So I went in, joined, enlisted, and went to Parris Island, South Carolina, where Marine Corps boot camp is at. Dealt with all that. That was very challenging. I barely passed my swim qual. But again, that was challenging. But I ended up graduating. I went to what do you call that? Infantry, School of Infantry in North Carolina, Camp Geiger, North Carolina. Then I went on to my MOS school where you learn your job in the military. They call it MOS, Military Occupational Specialty. Went to Albany, Georgia, and then got orders to go to Yuma, Arizona. I was like, what the frick is a Yuma, Arizona? Because on my dream sheet, I put Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, put all these other places, but they sent me to Yuma, Arizona. So I got out there, and I remember the first night I got out there, it was like almost midnight, a little bit after midnight, and I landed. And it was like almost like 400,000 degrees. If you ever been to Yuma, Arizona, that just sucker's hot because you right in the valley. And I checked in and everything, and that first night out there, I bust up crying. I was like, what in the world have I gotten my into? How the freak did I end up in Yuma, Arizona? And all my classmates that was in my MOS school, they all went to Okinawa. They went to Camp Lejeune and all these other places. I go to freaking Yuma, Arizona. So I was in Yuma, Arizona for 4 years. And that second year of the 4, I met my future wife. She was a Marine as well. You talk about a fairy tale. I lived on the third deck, and she lived on the second deck. You know, we was flirting back and forth and all that, but never knew that 20 plus years later, 2 kids later, we still rocking. So it was a blessing that, you know, I was sent to Yuma, Arizona. But then it came to a point where I was really tired of the Marine Corps. I was really just exhausted. Was like, you know, I got to do something else. You know, I don't want to be a Marine no more. So I was honorably discharged, and my wife, she was still in. So the first job I worked at after I was honorably discharged from the Marine Corps, I worked at Foot Locker. And the story I'm going to talk about tomorrow on Way Back Wednesday, I have a story about that, Foot Locker. So I worked at a Foot Locker in Yuma, Arizona. Worked there for about, a year or so. And I was like just so perplexed that it has to be more than just selling shoes. And, you know, I was putting up some good numbers because all my Marine friends, they was coming to the Foot Locker and they would buy from me, you know, so my sales, my commission, I was making pretty good money. But I just wanted something more. I thought it was more that was out there. So I talked to my wife. I said, you know what? I think I want to go back. I want to go back to the Marines. I think I really want to do this. So we go into the recruiting station, and one of my Marine friends had stopped me. He was like, hey, man, what are you getting ready to get into? I said, man, I'm about to join the Marines, man. I'm tired of this whole Foot Locker job. I need something else. He's like, dude, he said, go to the Army, man. The Army's where it's at. So, you know, in the Marines, you know, it's like the Army. There's no such thing as other branches. It's the Marines, and then it's the Marines, and then it's the Marines. Everything else is thirdary, not secondary. It's thirdary, right? So I said, I give it a shot. So I go in the Army recruiting station, and this recruiter was in there. He was like just so nonchalant. And I was like, hey, you know, I'm a prior service Marine. I got an honorable discharge. Showed him my DD 214. And I was like, you know, I want to join. I just want to see what it's like. And he was like, okay. He said, what if I can get you Europe? So I'm thinking this dude, you know, I'm just calling this bluff. So, you know, I play his game for entertainment value. He said, yeah, if I can get you Europe, will you enlist? I'm like, yeah, whatever. So he said, I'll get in touch with you in like 72 hours, I think it was. So he ended up calling me the next day. He said, hey, man, I got Europe for you. I need you to come down to the station. So I'm like, bet. So I got on the station, and there it was. I had Europe. He said, well, I can't tell you where in Europe. It could be Germany, it could be Italy, but I got you Europe. So I'm like, hey, good to go with that. So this was the summertime, and I ended up shipping that October. So I ended up getting Europe. I ended up getting Hanau, Germany. So I ended up shipping it. Since I was a prior service Marine, I didn't have to go through Army basic training. I didn't have to go through none of their schools. I just went to Fort Jackson, South Carolina. I was there for like 2 weeks, maybe a week and a half. Got all my shots and everything. I got my uniforms and, you know, all the administrative type stuff. And then probably like 2 weeks later, I was on a plane to daggone Hanau, Germany. Now, mind you, my wife, and we had just had a child too. My wife was, she still had, I think, 8 or 9 months left in her contract in the Marine Corps. And then, you know, we had a brand new newborn before I had shipped as well while I was working at Foot Locker. So, you know, that was a stress level. You know, I'm in this foreign country, and then my wife and my daughter are back in the States. She's still in the Marines. You know, how's all this going to work? And I end up, I was in Germany probably like 8 months, 7-8 months by myself until my wife was honorably discharged. And once we did all the paperwork, the command sponsorship and everything, they ended up coming to Germany. And we was, you know, united at one. Because at that time, it was just 3 of us. My son wasn't born yet. So Germany was great. I mean, it's something about, it was my first time ever being overseas. That was a lovely assignment. I was there for 3 years. And then after that, we went to Fort Hood, Texas. Fort Hood, Texas was very challenging. It was like my first time really being like in Texas and at South and Southwest and all that. So it was very difficult. And I worked in a warehouse when I was in Germany. And I was pretty, I was pretty good. I was around a lot of good people. And then when I got to Texas, a lot of the leadership was like, okay, you was in Germany, did great. So what? So I was like, man, now I had to realize that no matter what duty station you go to, you have to start over. No one cares about what you did in the past. It's almost like, what have you done for me lately? So I had to earn everything again. So went through that. We ended up deploying to Iraq, came back, and I got orders to go to Fort Irwin, California, which was great. We went out there, and that was the first time I worked in the autonomous environment. I just worked for a colonel and a command sergeant major, and I ended up getting my degree, my associate's degree out there, because they really pushed education. Go to school. Why aren't you in school? Go to school on Saturday. And I really had fun out there as a family. We was doing Disney World, we're going to Sea World, Big Bear. I mean, I really enjoyed that assignment. And then when we left for Urban, California, I got a dependent restrictive tour to Korea. I went to Camp Humphreys, Korea, and my return assignment was from Fort Lewis, Washington. So I moved my family. We bought a house in Fort Lewis, Washington, while I served that year in Korea. And that year in Korea was great. It was fun. I really learned a lot. I was in one of the type of units that love to go to the field all the time, so I had fun with that. Rotating back from Korea was in Fort Lewis, Washington, and I had just spent a year in Korea, and then to come to find out that the unit I was going to Fort Lewis, Washington, they was getting ready to deploy, and I'm like, "But God, dog, I just came back from freaking Korea." They was like, "Yeah, okay," and so we leave at this time and this time. So we end up deploying, and was there a year. So we come back, and I end up going to the senior leaders course. I went to recruiting school, put a packet in to be a recruiter. Now, funny thing about recruiting, when I initially put my packet in, they give you, I don't know how they do it now, but then you had like a map of the United States, and it was all color coded by brigades and battalions. Now, if I remember, you had to pick 9 of them. So I wanted to go to Philadelphia, I wanted to go to New York, I wanted to go to Baltimore, I wanted to go to Miami. I picked the LA and I think of San Antonio. Nowhere did I pick Detroit, and Detroit is part of the Great Lakes Recruiting Battalion. I didn't pick Detroit. So I remember while we were still deployed, I called the recruiter. I forgot what it was called, but it was the number you call, and they worked on all the assignments for recruiting. And I called and I talked to a master sergeant. I was like, "Master Sergeant, just, checking on my packet, where it's at. What is my next step? What do I need to action?" She was like, "Oh, you going to, I'm looking at your record, and you from Detroit." I said, "Roger, Master Sergeant." She said, "Oh, that's where you're going." I'm like, "Well, hold up. Did you see the other, the other cities on the list? I had Baltimore, I had Chicago, I had New York, Miami." She said, "No." She said, "We sending you to Detroit. You going to the Great Lakes Recruiting Battalion." So now I'm like, okay, I grew up in this city, and now I'm going back as a person trying to get people from the city to join the Army, which was a challenge. And then also reintegrating my family with my family that I grew up with, so that was challenging in itself. And then when we got there, man, everything fell into place. It was just like, I had never left. And so, I hit the streets running. We was recruiting hard. We had a good group with us. Those guys, it was phenomenal. And we was recruiting, man. We was in them schools. We was in the malls. I mean, we was on the corners. I mean, we were there. And the beautiful thing about it, the majority of my recruiting station, most of us were from Detroit. So we kept our ear to the street. We knew what the streets were like. We went to school with some of the parents that end up joining the Army. And most of the folks that we recruit out of the station, I would say probably 80% of them either stayed 4 years or they're productive citizens. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters, because everybody can't do this thing 20 years. Everybody can't do this military thing 10 years. So do what you can, get your degree, save you a couple of dollars, become a better person, and then, like I said, bring value to other endeavors in your life. So when we left recruiting, I ended up getting an assignment to Okinawa, Japan. Family-wise, best assignment I ever had. We were there for 36 months. Um, and it was great. Oh man, you talk about living in Okinawa, Japan, 2.5 hour flight to Tokyo. You could fly to Korea, going to Thailand, going to Australia, going to freaking the Philippines. I mean, oh gosh, it was freaking phenomenal. Best family assignment ever had. And not just family, professionally, one of the best. I mean, some of the best leaders I've had. I've had great leaders, so I'm not trying to minimize leaders before, but this assignment was really, folks that challenged me, made sure I knew what to do, they put me in pressure cooker situations just to see how I react to it, and it was phenomenal. So after we were there 3.5 years, we ended up getting orders. I got orders to Korea, the dependent restrictive tour, and my family rotated back to our current location. And I went to one of them type of units that love to go to the field all day, every day. And initially, before I even set foot in Korea, I was like, I don't want to go back. I've been to Korea. I was in Korea years ago. I don't want to go to this unit. I don't want to go here. But everything I learned in Okinawa, Japan, professionally, Korea was the culminating event because I learned so much and I was able to put all that, everything just, it clicked. You know how they talk about football players when they learn the offense and after a while it just clicked. That's how Korea was. And everything I used to watch my leadership do in Japan, where I would question myself, can I even do this? Can I accomplish this task? Can I pull this off? And I went to Korea, and I was like, I can do this. I was probably really feeling myself then too, because I got promoted to master sergeant. I was like, shoot, man. I won't say I felt invincible, but I mean, I had a good group around me. The support was phenomenal, man. And that was great. That was professionally, Japan set me up, and Korea again was just that culminating event. So once I rotated back from Korea, came to Fort Knox, and in my heart of hearts, I believe that's where I started really thinking about retirement. But in my heart of hearts, I know, I would take this to the grave with me. If I had rotated back from Korea in that same type of unit back to the States, I probably wouldn't have retired because the tempo was so high. It was just constant, constant, constant. But I ended up going to a unit in Fort Knox. Initially, I was very upset because the tempo wasn't as fast. It was a slower pace. Most of the guys and gals that was there, they was getting ready to retire and move on to other things. And when I got there, I'm trying to, typical with military, once you get to one duty station, you're trying to change the world. Why y'all do this? Well, we did it like this in Korea, da da da. You have to realize everything doesn't work. Some of the policies and procedures and the way you did things doesn't work at every duty station. Now you can take little smidgets of it, but I think a lot of times, and I'm guilty of just trying to force it. Well, if I did it in Germany, why can't it work here? If I did it in Japan, why can't it work here? Different environment, different area of operation. And so that's when I really started realizing, hey, it may be time to take a knee, time to, retire. Then I had multiple knee surgeries, so it was time. But I'm thankful, where I'm at. I end up retiring after 20 plus years of service. Phenomenal people I've met over the years, and I still keep in contact with people, even folks I served with in the Marine Corps and throughout all my duty stations in the Army. It's afforded me an opportunity to be able to live a lifestyle that's very comfortable. We're not wanting for anything, like I said, been married almost 25 years. Got a daughter, she's doing great. My son's doing great. So life is, it's a blessing. I'm honored, man. I'm living the dream. You know what I mean? I'm living a dream. So I'm definitely thankful for a lot of this. I'm just thankful, man. That's all I can say. But that's me in a nutshell, talking on a Tuesday. That's my story. So again, like, subscribe, follow, do all the things you need to do to be successful. And we there, man. Just enjoying kind of talking to you guys, kind of opening myself up. A lot of people, you shouldn't talk about this, man. I just, I have nothing to hide. I just want to be helpful to somebody because had so many people help me over the years, and it's almost paying it forward, you know. But again, like, subscribe, follow my Instagram, my YouTube, my daggone Facebook, Trust and Believe Nomadcast, hosted by me, Damon Anderson. Just thankful to be here, y'all. Again, tomorrow we'll do this again. It'll be episode 3, way back Wednesday. Talk about a story, 9/11, how that impacted me and my family and so many others. It's a day that we'll never forget. Again, like, subscribe, follow. Appreciate everything. Appreciate the comments. Appreciate everything. Guys, have an outstanding day. See you Wednesday morning.